welcome into my enchanted kitchen. I'm Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein, and I'm so delighted to have you in my enchanted kitchen. We've been having a lot of fun the last few months, cooking, talking, noshing, chatting, just enjoying an opportunity for good stories, good humor, lots of fun, and particularly to think positively. Now, I'm sort of tired tonight. You know, it was a long day, it was a gray day, so even though I'm in my enchanted kitchen, I have decided no cooking. I am not cooking tonight. So that's my decision. I have some walnuts so I won't starve, and I even have some other treats hidden if I need them. But the only thing bad about my decision is that I've been having this sort of magic thing happen where we've been finding secrets and recipes for life in what we've been cooking. So I'm not going to cook tonight, and I'm a little worried. Am I going to end up all alone and without any magic? Or will there somehow still be magic? Oh, I hope so. Maybe someone will come by, like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. I'll have a good friend come by and we'll talk. We'll talk about positive things in life and some of the ingredients that make life really wonderful. Well, okay, I'm going to have to wait. You know, I can't control when a friend shows up or not, but let me just go into a little bit of relaxation and I'll wait. Wow. Hello.
Barbara, how are you?
Hi, Thor. I'm so delighted to see you.
I heard outside the door. What's this? No food? No magic?
Well, I'm hoping for magic, but what I did decide, it was a long gray day, a busy day, not cooking tonight.
Well, you're wonderful company, and you have
Yeah,
nuts.
I have walnuts.
I guess I'll indulge in some walnuts.
Sure, please help yourself.
So, how have you been?
I've been great. Yeah, I was down in Florida for a week, and I went to Disney World, and I got to go into a fantasy a little bit. And I actually, in terms of food, I ate in an African restaurant that they've set up in one of the Disney hotels, and I had about 40 different foods that I've never ever heard of in my life.
That's always good.
Yeah, that was
expand your
fun.
horizons
It was really
and try
fun.
new culinary adventures.
Exactly. And here I am back again. So one of the things that I was thinking about, Thor, and sort of hoping, you know, maybe you would stop by, was that there really are some ingredients for wholesome living. And I know we've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have found a way of sort of giving a short language, sort of shortcuts to 7 vital ingredients. Now, I'm not saying they're the only ingredients, but I've been playing with the ways I say these ingredients for a long, long time, and I think I've got it sort of sharper and cleaner to trigger some thoughts and conversation. So may I share them?
That sounds wonderful. Before you start, though, I must say that I've been away for a little bit adventuring, and
yes.
you know, it's good to see you again. And I've been studying your book, Recipes for Enchantment. The secret ingredient is you. And I must say that it has opened up new areas for me to think about, and it's given me a lot to digest. So
Good.
In a way, even though I wasn't here to sample your fine cuisine, I was from a distance.
Well, that's great to hear.
What inspired you to write this? I mean, show it to the folks
Yes.
at home, too.
Well, again, I've been trying to, for the last 10 years, find ways, how do you say something so people don't just sort of dull out? You know, you hear something that's kind of meaningful, but it's just too much and it's too heavy and it's like, you're gone. How can I say some things that I think are so important? So it came to me that if I could focus on helping people understand that each person, just like this pretty gal who's sitting on the cover, each person is unique and has their own set of talents and strengths, and yes, weaknesses, but we don't want to focus on the weaknesses. And that if you see them as ingredients in making a life, and you combine your strengths with some opportunities that will emerge if you look for them, you will lead what I call an enchanted life, which means not a scary, witchy, kind of occult life.
Although I enjoy that
right,
a lot.
I understand. But from my perspective, if that's for you, then that's fine. But the term enchantment for me means that you find a wholesomeness that fits you. You live a sense of well-being, a sense of sacred space that feels right. And your essence is taken into account. So I decided that if I put a whole bunch of little stories together with follow-up kind of space to journal and doodle and think and maybe have fun with 2 or 3 other people at a table after you've had a nice meal, reminiscing, sharing stories, that people might put the energy in this type of growth. Because part of the problem, like I know you've lost a lot of weight, you look very fit, you're really strong, you have the energy to do this, okay? A lot of people can't make it to the gym. It's not that they wouldn't want to go, but, okay? It's the same thing with mental health. Most people want to feel good inside. They want to feel integrated and whole. But it sounds like just too much. What do I have to do? I have to look in the mirror and tell myself I'm great every day, and then I have to go to my psychologist, and then I have to, be careful every word I utter. Whatever it is, they're afraid the package isn't going to fit them. So I'm looking for ways to help people feel that the mental health package can fit you. You can feel great with it. It's not that hard. Of course, if you have real illness, that's another story. But we're talking now about basically somebody who is willing to thrive without deep, deep problems, but may not know how to get the energy together to do it.
So you have an additional 7 ingredients?
Okay, so now that this book has come out and, I worked my way through the 31 stories, it set my mind in motion about first of all, the number 7 is very magical and very mystical and seems to work for a lot of people. So I think I've been rummaging around the idea of 7. And whereas the things that I used to take a page each to talk about, I've now condensed to 1 or 2 words. So let me share some of them and you'll see what I mean.
So here comes the magic.
Yeah, okay. So for example, the first one, the first ingredient in a positive, full life is know yourself. Okay?
That's very important. That was the maxim on the Oracle of Delphi.
Yeah. Yeah, now you've incorporated that as a major thread in your teachings.
Yes, I have. And going back to the secret ingredient is you, one of the things I found is that people are willing to settle for a supporting role in their own life. And I too have been through periods where I was working through my conditioning, but it struck me as very odd that this is our time in the sun. This is a time when we're breathing. And your life is ultimately your story. It's all about you. So why not be the hero in your life?
So that's what I thought, that if you know yourself, you will know the hero or heroine you are. Now, will there be some painful work to get to that? Yes.
That's part of the adventure.
But it's part of the adventure, exactly. Will you have to learn how to separate out some bad feelings and memories in order to hold on to the good ones? Yes.
And those are the monsters.
Yeah. But you can learn that way. You can learn how to separate. Just as in a recipe, you can separate ingredients or mix them together. Our minds are very capable of learning how to not go back to certain places. It takes practice. And, there are many schools that teach positive thinking, reconditioning, cognitive thought. and we won't study them on the show, but they're out there. But for most people, they may not even need formal training. They just have to learn that they are entitled to what is the best of themselves. And I think that's kind of what you do when you help someone feel the heroic part of themselves. You know, you've told me at work you often help your clients get a sense of the real hero.
Of who they are. A lot of what I do, I don't even look at diagnosis anymore. I insist on not being told diagnosis. I insist on not knowing too much about the person's background when they come in. I prefer to look at them with fresh eyes and to hear their story out of their own mouth.
Yes. I was just chuckling because Fresh Eyes is part of the working title on my next book. That was just too close to not.
Synchronicity. The gods wanted this information out.
Exactly. Okay. Yes. All right. Now, the second ingredient of the 7 ingredients is liking yourself. Now, if you know yourself, we hope that you're going to see your heroic side and fall in love, in a sense, with yourself. But I think it's so important that you see yourself as a positive, valuable person that I've also set it aside as the second ingredient. I don't think it can be just assumed that, you know, really a positive sense of self is just so important. Without it, we're just walked upon. You know,
and that's a sad part. We've spoken about this also. It's a sad part of our conditioning that in an effort to make us conform, in an effort to make us behave, and with the best of intentions, you know, to try to mold us into functioning units of the society, that a lot of who we are, what makes us unique, what is our strength, gets kind of quashed. And after the external forces are gone, we carry this mechanism inside ourselves, so we continuously squelch ourselves, and we don't give ourselves the opportunity to be the wonderful, glorious, powerful human being that we are.
I know, and it's very sad. And sometimes really good counseling or therapy very often can be really brilliant. Here, I found that this is an area where therapy can really help a person understand that what they're saying to themselves are absorbed voices, maybe from a parent, from an aunt, from a strict grandmother, a second grade teacher, whoever, and learning to get on, to take charge. And I am the captain of this ship, not that voice that talked to me when I was in second grade.
What I found helpful along those lines too was when those critical voices come up, to ask, who said that? Who kept saying that? And we've so internalized it and given it our own voice that a lot of times we don't recognize who gave us these repetitive messages in the first place. And once you get there, it becomes, well, that was their opinion. And it becomes easier to exorcise it once and for all from your consciousness.
Exactly. I was listening to a learning tape that was psychological in nature, and the man was saying that so often it's important as parents to put on a sunny face. For example, on Shabbos, if you're Jewish, or Sunday afternoon, if you're Christian, you go to church, you come back, you have lunch. You know, even if you're in a sour mood or you're worried about money or whatever, if you put on a happy face with your kids, it gives them a sense that not only is everything going to be okay, but that family time sort of makes you how can I put it, is more important than the bill that's due or this thing that has gone wrong, because children can't separate it out, and they usually think when parents are in a dumpy mood that they're responsible. And what happens is they carry that through so that in the next generation, they don't provide the joy and the sense of warm times that they really want to. You know, so it is so important how we send messages.
And it is very important how we send messages, because those messages carry on from generation to generation. And going back to what you said just a little bit earlier, one of the things that I realized and that I now convey when I work with people is, in terms of liking yourself and being the hero of your own life, is that when we watch heroes on television and in the movie, we're not watching them for the most part go through easy times. They're often going through some very difficult and dramatic, cataclysmic times. And yet we have no problem losing sight of the fact that they're the hero, and we don't stop rooting for them. And we often even don't see them at their best. We see a lot of human qualities come out through their adventures that may not be admirable.
Qualities that they may then try to work on in this adventure also.
But they come out, and yet we still do not fail to recognize them as the hero and to root for them. And yet we don't give ourselves the same luxury. We don't give ourselves the same benefit of the doubt. We are very quick, as long as we're stuck in those condemning voices, to pick up a stick and beat ourselves with it.
Oh, yeah, we're terrible at it. Let me jump ahead to what was going to be the fourth ingredient.
Okay.
I'll skip the third for a minute because it dovetails what you're saying. The fourth ingredient is self-replenishment and building in pleasure and joy. And I would include under that giving yourself permission for mistakes, for hardships, for learning along the way, so that you can let the joy of being alive come through. We can't feel joyful when we're beating up on ourselves.
No, we can't. And one of the ways I learned that lesson very powerfully, so powerfully in fact that it affected the way I look at every moment, was I'd worked with terminally ill people who were bed-bound, and also I spent some time working in an emergency room. And there, you're often confronted with people who were at the end of life. And when they were looking back at life, it was regret for not having experienced some certain simple pleasures, like I wish I went to Europe that time, or I wish I walked in the grass barefoot more. That these simple pleasures that people deny themselves as being frivolous, at the end of life, are what take on grand importance. Not the degrees you earned, not how much money you made, not the possessions that you managed to accumulate, but the quality of your memory of life's very simple, basic, pleasures. Basically, what gave you personally a sense of joy, a sense of well-being.
Well, that's a lot what I think about, and some of what I'm working on in my next book is sharing how I finally decided that I was entitled to more replenishment and joy, and what that meant in terms of my own adventuring.
Oh, I enjoyed your first two books. I can't wait to read the third.
Okay, so, yeah, I agree, and let me see whether I should, I think I should back up, though, to the third ingredient, because now it dovetails. And that is, the third ingredient is learning to meet your needs. Now, a lot of people end up with the whip on themselves, feeling very bad about themselves because they forgot they're going to have to learn how to meet their own needs in life. We are not given usually a silver spoon and a golden path. We usually have to educate, learn from others. Sometimes we have to fail. I met up with somebody who had taken a real estate course 10 times, and now he had passed and he was working in real estate. Now, a lot of people would think 10 times was too many times. This young man didn't. He knew he needed this certificate. Took him 10 times.
If I had $1 for every person who told me I could never be Thor the Barbarian in human services, I'd be able to fund my own movies at this point. But yeah, we cannot take the negative self-judgment of the world as it internalizes within us as law.
Right. When I graduated college, I had gone to a top university and did poorly. Probably would have done better off in in a different type of setting and maybe soared a little more. But I remember when I was being counseled on my exit my senior year, I was encouraged to maybe become a teacher. I mean, the woman could hardly even come up with anything she thought I could do, you know, because I had only achieved a C to C plus average in the school, and somehow in her mind that meant I was finished. And I remember the despair and confusion in talking with this woman. Fortunately, my parents were smart enough and understood enough to encourage me to basically ignore her. But the point is that she had already determined that my whole future was narrow. You know, in other words, I had wrecked myself by 20.
I'm glad you didn't heed her, because your future's
So
been
I'm
glorious
saying,
indeed.
look, you know, same kind of thing.
I've also learned as I get older, because I'm in my 40s now, and I love my 40s. They're better than my 30s, which were better than my 20s, but that's another story. That with the 40s come an acceptance of who you are, in that you realize that half your life's journey has been complete, and that the parts of you that haven't changed since you were a child are not likely to change.
Right.
And you could stop beating yourself up about those things. And there's a tremendous sense of relief. And I also found that, we'll bring it to practical matters, that I'm at a point in my human service career now, and with my entertainment career, that I can just tell people who are willing to give me money to do things that I'm not organized. Forget about keeping me organized. I'm phenomenally creative, I'm visionary, I could do all these remarkable things. But if you want organization from me, you're going to get it sporadically.
Or do it
if
for
you
you.
need it consistently, get me an administrative
Right.
assistant who loves keeping people like me organized. And just the fact that I can say this and put it on the table and let them decide whether this is something they want to deal with or not, or the fact that I'm Thor the Barbarian, is a very freeing type of experience.
I think it's wonderful, because when we realize that we can't possibly be good in everything.
No.
But the fact that we're not doesn't in any way make us less.
No, we're
it's
not
just
diminished.
the nature of the human beast. You know, all of us have maybe half a profile that works really, really well, and the other half, you know, we struggle with.
In my heritage, and we've talked about heritage before, and I look forward to this is something we can get lost in.
Right.
With the ancient Greeks, the hero was not so much the way the term is conceived now, but it was somebody who took their one trait, their one God-given talent, and ran with it. So Hercules' was strength. Odysseus's was cunning. And if you read the myths, keeping that in mind, you see that they were no different from other mortal men, except for the fact that they found their God's given talent, and they cultivated that one thing, and that one thing elevated them into the sphere of legend.
Now, it's a little different in Jewish history in the sense that, for example, Moses had a lisp and was very uncomfortable as a public speaker, and really had to deal with his own trepidation and weaknesses in order to do what his assignment was. So there's also the notion that we spend a good deal of our lives strengthening the weaker sides, building our character, as well as using our strengths to, of course, carry us forward. You know, so I don't know if that's ultimately a real difference or not, because you're talking about heroic figures bigger than life. And, for example, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, is concerned with ordinary people and how they got through heroic challenges.
One of the things that I've learned in speaking to you is that whenever we touch this topic, even though it seems that we come from totally different places on totally different sides, in explaining it, we find that we're actually talking about the same thing.
Yeah, very close. Well, let's run through the last 3 ingredients. I don't want someone to run out of here and not be sure what they got out of the Enchanted Kitchen.
Okay.
So after we love ourselves and know ourselves and we meet our needs, and we replenish ourselves. Now what we need is to belong. It really is lousy to be too isolated and alone. Does not work for most of us. We need to after we belong, we need to mentor and be mentored, as we're doing tonight. It never stops. I'll be your teacher for 5 minutes. You'll be my teacher. It's cool. And the last ingredient is, above all, when you don't know what to do or you don't know what you can add and you think things are bad, turn the tables and do a good deed. Do a positive action. It's better than doing nothing or something that's going to hurt someone.
Wise words. And
yes.
Even though you had no food today, I have a lot of food for thought.
Good. I'm glad. Well, gee, this was great. I'm so glad you stopped by for
and I'm glad I came too.
Yeah.
I missed you, Barbara.
I missed you
we should
too.
do this more often.
All right. And everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed the 7 ingredients. I hope you relaxed with Thor and myself in the Enchanted Cooking Kitchen. Even though we weren't cooking, we're cooking in our heads, cooking with our psychic, emotional energies. And bye for now. See you soon.
Happy adventures, and you're alive. Go live.